Well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about The Case for Christ? Stick around and find out. Carry on, my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Oh, it's flat on that high. That's as much as I know anyway. I had to YouTube that song because I've heard it maybe vaguely once before, but I don't listen to popular cool people music, so even cool people music that's classic or the 80s. What am I talking about? You're here for, I don't know why you're here, probably for the review. My name is Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of The Case for Christ. The synopsis on IMDb reads, based on the true story, it's kind of the synopsis. There's two versions. It's a longer one. Anyway, based on the true story of an award-winning investigative journalist and avowed atheist who applies his well-honed journalistic and legal skills to disprove the newfound Christian faith of his wife, with unexpected, life-altering results. Okay, so this is not a documentary. There was a Case for Faith maybe video that was released a number of years ago that was kind of a documentary format with interviews with talking heads and stuff like that, experts in their fields talking about the legitimacy of the claims of the Bible. This is not that or anything like that. This is a dramatization of the true story, based on the true story of investigative journalist Lee Strobel, who spoiler, did become a believer. And so that you see that play out and how that happened in this movie. But really this movie is not about, the drama of the movie, which it is a drama, does not hang on will he become a believer in Jesus or not. You might think that as you're watching it, but that's really not where the drama is coming from. The drama is coming from all the broken relationships in his life as his wife is coming into faith, and how he is resistant to that, and just all the conflict that causes. We learn about conflict that he's had in the past with his father, and there's just lots of conflict as he is sorting through and watching his wife sort through these issues about the truth claims of the Bible, and because these aren't just intellectual ideas that are being evaluated, they are much more than that. They are truth claims, the ramifications of which have a dramatic effect on people's lives, whether they choose to accept these claims as the truth or not. And so it really hangs on, not like this really kind of brainy intellectual, what are all the arguments and da-da-da-da-da. It's more about the drama that unfolds as people go through experiences like this, where they are questioning their beliefs for the first time, or maybe they're experiencing doubt in their beliefs for the first time. I think it's really worthwhile to watch just for that. It just holds up as a good family drama, on that alone. Let's see. Let me talk about the cast a little bit. I really doubt that a movie that is supporting the truth claims of the Bible is even going to be remotely considered for anything related to the Academy Awards. And I'm not sure that these performances would necessarily warrant Academy Awards, even if they would be considered. But I really thought that all the performances in this movie were really strong. And the standout performers are the two leads. We've got Mike Vogel, who is very relatable and likable as Lee Strobel, despite the fact that Lee, because of his bitterness and his just hardness, and that he kind of becomes the villain in the lives of other people in this movie, and people are pretty patient with him, and his wife is just enduring, all this like bitterness and anger that he's bringing into the home as a result of what he's going through internally as he watches his wife come to faith. That said, what's her name? Erica Christensen, who plays Lee Strobel's wife. She feels real and complex to me in this movie as a woman who is new to faith in Jesus. She loves her husband, but she doesn't always say the right thing. She doesn't always use the right tone, you know. These actors, I felt like, powerfully represent the complexity of emotions and character flaws that just tend to emerge when people begin to question what they believe, especially when those beliefs have such a dramatic impact on how they view all of life, you know. There are no noteworthy visual effects. It's not that kind of movie, and I should mention at this point that I do not normally, if you weren't aware of this, review movies that are not geek genre movies. So this is just on a case-by-case basis. I make the decision whether or not I'm going to review a Christian movie that doesn't have lasers or dragons or weird monsters and stuff like that. That's really what this channel and this and the Christian Geek Central content is about. The reason I made an exception for this one, as I have in rare instances in the past, is that I like to keep my finger on the pulse of Christian filmmaking to see, is it making any significant steps forward? What is the current status, you know? And in looking at the trailers for this movie, I just visually, in the trailer, I was like, this looks like a movie that's actually being done with real solid production quality. You know, it doesn't have any of that feeling to me that a lot of Christian movies do that's like, well, there's something off quite, there's something not quite right in terms of the budget, in terms of the caliber of actors, in terms of how it's being shot. There's something that's just kind of like they're doing their best, you know, but it still feels a little bit inexperienced or amateurish in its filmmaking. I did not get a drop of that in this movie. It was easily, in terms of its production quality, on par with the current mainstream Hollywood standard for drama films of this type. So I really thought that just in terms of how the movie looks, how it's shot, just the production quality overall, I was really happy to see Christian films reaching this point. As much as I thought that the resurrection of Gavin Stone was a significant step forward, I think already we've got another movie here that, boom, has raised the bar again to the point where it's like, well, now I don't know if I would be satisfied with a step forward similar to Gavin Stone. This has raised the bar once again. I would really like to see Christian films and their overall production quality meet or exceed the standard set by The Case for Christ. Okay, so, I ask myself, anytime I'm watching a movie or playing a game or, any kind of fiction or entertainment, is there anything of worthwhile philosophical or moral significance, or spiritual significance that might stimulate worthwhile thought or conversation? As you might guess, this movie, in my opinion, absolutely has things that are that may trigger worthwhile thought or conversation, but not for the reasons that you might think. I think that this is possibly a movie that's more for Christians than non-Christians. Now, I do want to say that this content could be a starting point of investigation for a questioning and open-minded non-believer. I think that's possible. I don't think it's going to be something that, like, if someone is, antagonistic or like bitter or jaded or, especially if they're coming from a place where they're saying my issues with Christian faith are intellectual problems. I don't know that this is one that you would just want to say, well, go see this. I think, if anything, this movie indicates that no, really, relationships, even if the objections are said to be intellectual, it is relationships that really make a huge difference in someone who coming to faith from a place where they're saying, no, my objections are intellectual. Because oftentimes, as this movie demonstrates, that's really just kind of what's going on the surface, and they may not realize how much their objections are actually emotional in some way. So anyway, I don't know that I don't view this movie as like a witnessing tool or anything like that. I'm not really into giving people, these nicely packaged. I think relationships is how we really give truth to people and help them interact with the truth. We can recommend resources. In fact, I think that's actually a great way to go. And the journey that Lee Strobel takes in this movie is one in which he's not debating his wife, and she's not making all these point and counterpoint type of arguments. No, she is maintaining a relationship with him and being patient with him, and he's off doing his own private, somewhat isolated investigation. And it's the combination of those two things that seem to, for Lee Strobel, to work and bring him to a place where he can see the absolute reasonable nature of faith in Christ. So anyway, but actually I think that, because the evidence for the resurrection is just barely touched on compared to the book, The Case for Christ, or many other resources that are available, like those from William Lane Craig's website, reasonablefaith.org, and William Craig is actually a character in this movie. I think because the movie isn't really a documentary about giving you all this information about the truth claims of the Bible, instead I think the movie might have more value for Christians, not for the evidences given for the Christian faith, but for understanding conflict centered on passionately held views or beliefs. In this movie and in real life, Lee Strobel was not only convinced of the resurrection from the evidence. It was the change in his wife and her magnified love for him that helped him realize this is real. This is that was a real factor. It doesn't mean it was the overwhelming factor. I don't want to speak for Lee Strobel in that way. I would recommend that you read his book, The Case for Christ, to get more info on that. But anyway, for most of the movie, she is unaware that Lee is investigating the truth claims of the Bible. All she sees is his hostility, and she's unaware of the process that he's going through, which was over a period of months in the movie, and in the real life story of Lee Strobel, it was apparently over a period of years, and for some people, it can be over a period of decades. So likewise, in our disagreements, we don't see more than the character flaws of others. Whether we're disagreeing with a Christian or a non-Christian, whether we're disagreeing about something stupid like DC versus Marvel that really has no ultimate real value or weight or significance, or if it's something that actually does have weight, like something that's doctrinal in nature, something about the nature of who God is, and something that's just has actual weight and significance. We don't see in those interactions with others what's going on in their lives, what kinds of things that might be feeding into the emotion or the sensitivity that they're bringing with them to the conversation. In fact, a lot of times we don't recognize in ourselves that we have other things going on that are really bringing this kind of sense of tension into our conversations in which we disagree with others. And so I think this movie kind of helps bring that out, brings out the fact that these are not just these intellectual, theoretical things. These are like really weighty issues that affect the way we, approach our entire lives. And because of that, we need to bring a lot of grace and patience to each other. In the podcast, if you're just watching the video version of this review, I've been doing a weekly podcast that includes a Bible teaching segment each week, and we happen to be going through the book of Ephesians. I already prepared my notes, actually, like last week for the part of Ephesians that we're in right now, and it's just interesting timing. I wonder if the Holy Spirit's doing something here, but in the section we're looking at in Ephesians this week, it's the text is talking about issues related to differences and conflict that can happen among Christians, and just how important it is that we bring grace and we have an eagerness towards seeking unity and peace and understanding in those situations, And so the timing here is really interesting, and it seems like the Holy Spirit, at least for those that are connected to the content that I'm creating, might be wanting to get our attention about that. I don't know. I'll leave that for you to sort through. Let's see, what else? I think I'm just about done here. Yeah, I think that just as was the case for Lee Strobel's wife in this movie, the compassion that Jesus has, the love that Jesus has for us, should inspire us to remember that other people have hidden, complex things going on that are not at the surface as we're disagreeing with them, and they need our patience and our love, even as we hold to affirming the truth. I think I watched this movie and I'm like, yeah, man, we as Christians suck at this. We are not good at disagreeing without things getting heated. We are not good at disagreeing and equally affirming love in a way that's genuine and not just lip service. We are bad at actually feeling compassion and not just playing the part of someone who, is compassionate, but actually legitimately feeling compassion and bringing that into our interactions with other people. And I think, dang it, I watch this movie, I'm like, crap, we've got to make that a priority. We can spend so much time, trying to get our facts straight and and we feel this need to just kind of debate things and get the truth out there, and getting the truth out there is really important, but we're not going to be heard if we are not loving. Paul says that without love, we're just noisy gongs wrongs, and nobody wants to listen to that. So I think this movie thematically just brings out that theme really strongly, and man, I think we ought to agonize over how we can better handle disagreements with others in a way that we can express compassion for them. I think we ought to agonize over, Jesus, give me compassion for other people, because this person really irritates me. Help me to consider what might be going on in their life that will motivate me to give them compassion. So anyway, I think there's a lot of good that can come out of seeing this movie and considering those kinds of thoughts as you watch it and afterward. All right, so I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and I'd say, Pater, this is a good movie for like a date night with Holly. It's not one that you personally would want to see right away, but it is one that you'll eventually want to have in your collection. So whether you see it with Holly in theaters or just wait, you want to be sure and buy this one. You're going to want to have it on hand to be able to freely lend out to other Christians or to genuinely curious and seeking non-Christians, who you think that it might be useful to. It's a movie made with excellence that is, apart from its content, I would never guess that it was a Christian movie. So really good stuff. It's rated PG for thematic elements, including medical descriptions of crucifixion and incidental smoking. Ooh, watch out, parents. Parental guidance. There's smoking, incidentally. All right, those are my thoughts. I'd love to get yours in the comments below. And then, what else? Yeah, and then I hope you'll go to spiritblade.com, check out our weekly podcast, which I've been doing for about 10 years now. You can get that at spiritblade.com, and of course on iTunes, it's called the Spirit Blade Underground Podcast, where you can get content like you'll find on this channel, in addition to a weekly Bible study series that specifically gets into the Bible and figures out, okay, what in this specifically applies to us as geeks and our temperament as geeks. What specifically could we pull from this that would be useful to us? So that's not content that I'm really putting on this channel at this point, but if that would interest you, you can go a little bit deeper by going to spiritblade.com and checking out our podcast there. Then I hope you'll join us over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.